They thought a rooftop and a fire hose could break her, but when a group of bullies dragged a black girl into the sun-blasted rooftop of Ridgewood High just to soak her for fun, they had no idea the quiet girl they mocked had spent 10 years mastering professional kickboxing. The moment the water hit her, the power dynamic flipped. Fast. And when the first bully stepped closer, he learned the truth the hard way. The rooftop of Ridgewood High at 12:45 p.m. looked like a trap disguised as sunlight, blindingly bright, heat shimmering off the cement, and a restless wind dragging dust across the empty space. It was the kind of place where secrets could hide behind every air vent shadow, and where no teacher ever bothered to look. Zariah Miles pushed open the rooftop door, her braid brushing her shoulder as she stepped into the glare. She squinted, searching for the person who had sent her the message. "We need to discuss the group presentation. Urgent." Cole Harrington stood at the center of the rooftop like he owned the view, the wind rippling the hem of his orange lacrosse jacket. Behind him lounged his loyal circle, the Ridge Squad, Mason cracking his knuckles, Drew adjusting his phone camera, Tyler and Josh whispering like they already knew the punchline to a cruel joke, Shane leaning against an exhaust pipe with a grin too sharp to be friendly. Zariah stopped a few feet away, tightening her grip on her notebook. "What's this about, Cole?" Cole flashed that practiced smile, the kind that had fooled teachers, coaches, and half the school. "Just a quick talk. You don't mind, right?" He didn't wait for her answer. He reached behind him, grabbed the thick red fire hose coiled along the wall, and before she could even breathe, boom! A violent blast of water exploded from the nozzle, slamming straight into her stomach. The force knocked her backward a full step, cold cutting through her clothes like a blade. The pressure felt less like water and more like a police baton. Each hit a blunt strike against her ribs. Ridge Squad shouted with laughter. "Look at her!" Mason yelled. "Bro, she's drowning standing up." Tyler howled. "Wrong school, wrong girl, wrong life," Drew jeered, recording every second. Zariah sucked in a breath, her sneakers skidding across the wet concrete. She planted her feet again, redistributing her weight the way she'd done 1,000 times on the kickboxing mat. Heel grounded, core tight, breath steady. She didn't flinch the way they expected. She didn't beg. She didn't crumble. The shift was small, but unmistakable. Her eyes sharpened, the softness replaced by something colder, calculating. "Dangerous," Cole noticed. His grin faltered. "What's that look for, huh?" Zariah lifted her chin, water streaming down her jawline like silver threads. She spoke quietly, almost gently, just enough for him to hear over the roar of the hose. "You picked the wrong girl to play with." Cole hesitated, fingers tightening on the valve. The squad stopped laughing for a heartbeat, confusion rippling through them. Zariah didn't look broken. She looked ready. As Cole stepped toward her, angling the hose for another hit, something shifted above them. A faint buzzing, too soft for the bullies to notice. A small drone hovered 20 feet in the air, its tiny propellers slicing through the heat. Matte black, impossible to track against the bright sky unless you knew where to look. Its camera lens glinted like an unblinking eye, watching, recording, bearing witness. Zariah didn't see it, but the drone saw everything. It drifted a little to the left, red indicator light blinking twice, like a secret signal, before it turned and zipped away toward the academic building, disappearing behind the rooftop edge. Someone had been watching long before Zariah stepped onto the roof. Someone who wasn't going to let this go. The silent witness had just left to deliver its message, and whatever came next wouldn't stay on the rooftop for long. The blast of water didn't stop. It hammered Zariah in the chest, her shirt plastered to her skin, her braids whipping against her back as the pressure shoved her toward the metal railing. But she didn't fall. Instead, she shifted her feet. Small, controlled adjustments, the kind fighters use to redirect force rather than absorb it. Her left foot slid half an inch back. Her right heel pivoted outward. Her hips angled just enough to let the water cut across her body instead of slamming dead on. To anyone who knew combat, it was a clear defensive stance. To Ridge Squad, it looked like she was simply struggling to stay upright. Cole barked a laugh. "Look at her! She can barely hold herself up." "Dude, turn it up!" Josh yelled. Cole didn't need encouragement. He wanted a show. He wanted dominance. He wanted the clip Drew was filming to be something they could replay in their private group chat and laugh about for months. "Lock the damn door!" Cole snapped over his shoulder. "Last thing we need is some teacher sticking their nose where it doesn't belong." Shane jogged to the rooftop entrance and clicked the heavy latch shut with an echoing clack. The sound rolled across the concrete like a verdict. No escape, no interruption. Zariah lifted her head. The water blasted her face, soaking her lashes, flattening her skin with its force. But her eyes, they were steady, focused, alive. Cole didn't like that. "What are you staring at?" he shouted, shifting his grip on the hose. "You think this is funny?" Then it happened. Zariah stepped forward. Just one step, but it cut through the moment like a blade. Cole instinctively jerked backward, boots scraping across wet concrete. The hose dipped for a split second, the water pressure wobbling before he corrected it. Ridge Squad froze. "What the hell?" Mason whispered. It didn't make sense. She should have been pushed back. She should have been pinned. No one walked into a fire hose blast, but Zariah did. And then she smiled. Not wide, not dramatic, just the faintest curve, sharp, knowing, and terrifying in its quiet confidence. The laughter died instantly. Ridge Squad glanced at each other, unsure. It was Drew, camera still raised, who noticed it first. The sun shifted just enough to cast a bright line across Zariah's forearm. The water made her skin shine, highlighting the faint but unmistakable mark, a long, pale scar, ragged and shaped like the exact kind fighters got from hours of glove friction and elbow blocks. Drew's breath caught. "Yo," he murmured, lowering his phone. "Guys, wait, that scar, I think she's done competitions before." Josh frowned. "What?" "I'm serious," Drew insisted. "My cousin does Muay Thai. Dude, that's a fighter's scar." The words hit the group like a dropped match. Cole heard it, and for the first time since Zariah stepped onto the rooftop, his expression shifted. Not anger, not cruelty, but fear. A thin, cracking fear around the edges. His fingers tightened violently around the nozzle, knuckles bleaching white. "Shut up, Drew," he snapped. "You don't know what you're talking about." But his voice shook. Zariah didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Her step forward and that calm, mischievous smile said everything, and Cole felt it, that this wasn't the girl he thought she was, that maybe this wasn't the game he thought he was winning, that maybe, just maybe, he should have never brought her here. Cole, panicking, adjusts the hose, forcing the pressure up to its maximum setting, determined to crush the truth before it fully surfaces. The wind picked up near the west railing of Ridgewood High's rooftop, carrying the spray of the hose in a fine mist. Zariah stepped back just enough to gain space, her soaked shirt clinging to her ribs, the concrete cold under her feet. Cole killed the water flow with a frustrated twist of the valve. The sudden silence was heavy, thick enough to feel. He tossed the nozzle aside. It clanged across the ground. Ridge Squad watched with a kind of hungry anticipation, their faces twisted with the thrill of violence. They wanted a climax. They wanted Zariah broken. Cole cracked his neck, rolling his shoulders like he was stepping into a ring he'd never actually trained for. "You want to smile?" he snarled. "Smile at this." He lunged. His hand came up fast. A wide swing, sloppy but full of force. The kind of slap meant not just to hurt, but to humiliate. He wasn't trying to hit her like a fighter. He wanted to mark her, claim dominance, show the squad he controlled the narrative, even after Drew's whisper about her scar. But the moment his arm crossed the line of her personal space, Zariah moved, not with hesitation, not with fear, with precision. Her hips rotated sharply, heel digging into the wet ground for traction. She caught Cole's wrist mid-air, fingers locking around the joint with a snap of confidence. His momentum betrayed him. His weight shifted forward, off balance. Before he even processed the mistake, Zariah twisted. Her left arm slid under his elbow. Her shoulder dropped, her stance widened, and in 0.7 seconds, Cole Harrington, the untouchable captain of Ridgewood High's lacrosse team, was face down on the concrete, breath punched out of him in a single choked gasp. His cheek mashed against the floor, his arm pinned painfully behind his back, his legs kicking uselessly against the ground. The rooftop went dead silent. Ridge Squad stared as if gravity had suddenly changed. Mason's mouth hung open. Drew's phone nearly slipped from his hand. Shane whispered, "Holy shit," under his breath like a prayer. Zariah leaned down just enough for Cole to hear her voice. Soft, controlled, deadly calm. "That move you just felt?" Her breath brushed his ear. "That's only a basic level technique." Cole writhed, trying to push himself up, but she tightened the hold effortlessly. He wasn't escaping. Not from her leverage, not from her training, not from the consequences he'd never imagined he'd face. Then, a sharp click sounded above their heads. Everyone flinched and looked up. Mounted on a rusted pole near the air vents, the rooftop loudspeaker, covered with dust and never used by staff, blinked awake. A small red light at its base pulsed once, twice, then locked into a steady glow. Static crackled. Then a cold mechanical voice filled the air. Recorded. A chill shot through the group. Drew took a step back. Mason swore under his breath. The loudspeaker wasn't malfunctioning. It was broadcasting. Someone, somewhere, was streaming the entire confrontation, not just to a device, to an audience. The red light on the speaker blinked again, brighter, almost mocking. Cole's eyes went wide, panic slicing through the bravado. "Turn it off! Turn it off!" But there was no button, no panel, no switch. Whoever was recording had done it remotely. Ridge Squad spun in circles, searching for cameras, drones, anything. Their confidence, once solid as brick, crumbled in seconds. "Who the hell is watching us?" Tyler choked. Zariah didn't answer. She didn't need to. She kept her grip on Cole, rain of water dripping off her clothes, breathing steady, a fighter in full control. She didn't look like prey anymore. She looked like the only person on that rooftop who already understood the truth. They weren't the hunters today. And now that someone was streaming everything, Ridge Squad realized, with growing terror, that their reign over Ridgewood High was no longer happening in the dark. The rooftop door slammed open so hard it ricocheted off the outer wall. The sharp bang cut through the chaos like a gunshot. Zariah didn't loosen her grip on Cole. Ridge Squad spun toward the doorway, eyes wide, breath caught. Ms. Rowan, Ridgewood High's notoriously strict hall monitor, stormed onto the rooftop with her ID badge swinging wildly against her chest. Her face was flushed, hair wind-tossed, eyes blazing with alarm. "What is going on up here?" Her voice froze mid-sentence the moment she saw Cole pinned to the ground and Zariah crouched over him. Then her panic hardened into anger. "Zariah, let him go! Right now!" The command cracked through the air with enough force to make even Mason flinch. But Zariah didn't move. She kept Cole's wrist immobilized, her stance still firm, still disciplined. Cole seized the opportunity like he'd been waiting for this exact moment. "She attacked me," he cried out, voice suddenly trembling with theatrical pain. He clutched his free hand to his chest, gasping dramatically. "Ms. Rowan, she slammed me to the ground. I didn't even touch her." Drew glanced at him with a flicker of disbelief. Even the squad wasn't expecting that level of performance. But Ms. Rowan's eyes went straight to Cole, her expression morphing from anger into worry. "Cole, are you hurt?" she demanded, rushing toward him. Zariah rose slowly, releasing Cole only because she refused to be treated like the aggressor. Her breathing was steady, not a hint of fear in her posture. Ms. Rowan rounded on her, jaw tight with something between outrage and hesitation. "Zariah Miles, you cannot put your hands on another student. What were you thinking?" Zariah's eyebrows lifted just slightly, an incredulous expression that carried more accusation than any shouted word. She locked eyes with Ms. Rowan. The wind quieted. Time slowed, and she said firmly, "Clearly, did you not see them spraying me with a fire hose?" The question landed like a stone dropped into a still pond. The ripples spread across Rowan's face, guilt, shock, discomfort, breaking through the stern mask she always wore. For a moment, she didn't answer. For a moment, she looked trapped. Then she blinked hard and muttered, "This isn't the time for excuses. You need to come with me. Now." Cole curled into a pitiful shape on the ground, whimpering loudly enough for the whole school to hear if they'd been there. "My arm." She twisted it. "Ms. Rowan, it hurts." His voice cracked in all the right places, the performance disturbingly practiced. Zariah's jaw clenched. Ridge Squad exchanged subtle glances, each one carrying a silent question. Why did Ms. Rowan look almost afraid? Why was she avoiding looking directly at Cole? Because she wasn't confused. She wasn't misled. She was hiding something. Ms. Rowan grabbed Zariah by the forearm, not roughly, but urgently. "We're going downstairs. Now." Zariah pulled her arm back, refusing to be dragged, but she allowed herself to be guided to the door. She had nothing to hide, nothing to fear, but as she stepped toward the exit, something caught her eye. Mounted high above the doorway was a small dome-shaped security camera, one of the old models with a dim red LED that only blinked when actively recording. And right now, it was blinking. Slow, steady, deliberate. Someone had turned it on, someone who shouldn't have access to it. Ms. Rowan didn't notice. The Ridge Squad didn't notice. But Zariah did. Her heart thudded once. Not from fear, but from recognition. Someone else was watching. Someone who wasn't finished. As Ms. Rowan led her down the stairwell, Zariah glanced back at the glowing red camera, knowing that whatever came next, the truth was no longer theirs to bury. The discipline room at Ridgewood High was designed to intimidate. 4 gray walls, a flickering ceiling light, and a long wooden table that looked like it belonged in a police interrogation, not a school. The air was stale, cold, and heavy with the scent of disinfectant and disappointment. Zariah stepped inside with Ms. Rowan beside her. Cole was already there, sitting dramatically in the center chair, his arm wrapped in a makeshift sling created from someone's jacket. His hair was messed perfectly, just enough to look assaulted without actually being injured. Mason and Drew hovered near the wall, pretending to be concerned friends. Behind the desk sat Principal Brennan Hale, a man with a voice like velvet and a spine like wet paper. His polished suit, slicked back hair, and too white smile completed the illusion of authority. But his eyes, sharp, calculating, were the only honest part of him. He steepled his fingers. "Zariah Miles," he began, tone dripping with disappointment. "I've been informed that you physically attacked a fellow student. I am considering an immediate suspension." Zariah's jaw set. "With all due respect, sir, I was the one attacked. Cole cut in with a pained whimper, holding his sling tighter. "She came at me out of nowhere, Mr. Hale. I was trying to talk to her about our presentation, and she just snapped." He sniffled for effect. "She twisted my arm. Look at it. I think something's broken." Mason nodded solemnly. "It was scary, sir," Drew added. "She was out of control." Every lie was delivered with rehearsed ease, like they'd done this before. Principal Hale turned toward Cole, concern softening his features. "Cole, I'm so sorry this happened to you." Then he looked back at Zariah, and the softness vanished. "Violence will not be tolerated at Ridgewood High, especially unprovoked violence." Zariah felt heat crawl up her neck, not from embarrassment, from rage. "Check the rooftop camera," she said firmly. "It recorded everything. You'll see who attacked who." For the first time, Hale's expression twitched. He leaned back in his chair. Fingers drummed once, twice, then stopped. "The rooftop camera," he said slowly, "is unfortunately out of service today." Ms. Rowan's head jerked slightly, as if she hadn't heard that detail before. Cole's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Zariah's hands curled into fists against her thighs. "So it just happened to break," she said, voice sharpened to a blade. "Right before Cole led me up there?" Hale folded his arms. "These things happen. Equipment fails. Coincidence." But there was no coincidence in the way Hale avoided her gaze. No coincidence in how Cole sat smugly in his chair. Zariah inhaled. Slow, controlled, fighting the urge to shout. "Someone turned that camera off," she said quietly. "On purpose." Principal Hale smiled, thin as paper. "And unless you have evidence of that, Miss Miles, we are done." The office aide stepped forward. "Zariah, please come with me. Suspension paperwork needs to be completed." Zariah swallowed back the fury rising in her throat. She stood up, spine straight, jaw clenched. The aide reached for her arm, but before she could be escorted out, her phone vibrated in her pocket. A single buzz, then another, then a third. Zariah slipped her hand into her pocket and glanced at the screen. New video received. From unknown sender. The thumbnail froze her breath. It was the rooftop. Clear, high angle, crystal sharp. The fire hose. Cole's hand raised to slap her. Her takedown. Everything. Someone had captured it all. Her pulse steadied. Her anger sharpened into resolve. As she stepped toward the door, she didn't look defeated. She looked ready. The truth had finally found its way to her, delivered by someone who clearly wasn't finished helping her fight back. The girls' restroom on the second floor was cold and quiet, the humming fluorescent lights flickering like they were trying to warn her. Zariah shoved the door shut behind her, adrenaline still buzzing through her veins. She checked each stall, empty. Only then did she allow herself to exhale. Her fingers trembled as she unlocked her phone. The video from the unknown sender opened instantly. The first frame hit her like a punch, a breathtakingly clear aerial view, drone level, stable, smooth. Cole gripping the fire hose, the water slamming into her chest. Ridge Squad crowding around like spectators at a cruel circus. She dragged the timeline forward. There she was, stepping into the blast instead of away. Cole charging toward her. Her pivot, the takedown, his body hitting the concrete, every angle, every sound, every detail captured in brutal clarity. This wasn't a bystander with shaky hands. This was someone who prepared. Her heart thudded against her ribs. At the bottom corner of the video was a digital watermark, blinking softly. Ghost frame. Live cache. 01 before she could process what that meant. A notification slid across her screen. Ghost frame. I recorded everything. Zariah's breath caught. Another message followed immediately. Ghost frame. But there's more. Her pulse quickened. She typed fast. Zariah. Who are you? Why were you watching the rooftop? The typing bubble appeared instantly, like the person had been waiting. Ghost frame. Let's just say, I've been tracking Cole for a long time. She swallowed. Tracking? That meant this wasn't random. This wasn't someone who just happened to be nearby. Another message came. Ghost frame. If they suspend you, I'll release the footage publicly. All of it? Zariah stared at the words. She felt her stomach tighten with something between relief and fear. Someone was helping her. Someone who had the power to shatter the entire facade of Ridgewood High. But why, Zariah? Why are you doing this? What do you want? A longer pause this time. The typing bubble blinked, stopped, started again. Then, ghost frame. Cole didn't just bully you. A chill swept over her skin. Another message dropped before she could even react. Ghost frame. He's hurt a lot of people. You're just the first one who fought back. Zariah's breath hitched. Her mind raced back through every hallway whisper, every strange look from other students. The way some kids flinched when Cole walked past. The way teachers seemed to avoid eye contact when his name was mentioned. Pieces were falling into place. Ugly, painful pieces. She leaned against the cold tile wall, the scent of cleaning chemicals filling her lungs, grounding her in the moment. "Zariah, what are you planning to do with the videos?" Ghostframe answered almost instantly. "Ghostframe, that depends on you, but don't worry. I'm not done helping." A final message arrived, short, heavy, deliberate. Ghostframe, "Cole's not your only problem." Before Zariah could type a single response, "Bring, bring, bring!" The loud, piercing sound of the school-wide announcement alarm blared through the building. The restroom mirrors vibrated with the noise. A robotic voice followed over the speakers. "All students and staff report to the cafeteria for an emergency assembly." Immediately, Zariah's eyes widened. Emergency assembly? Right after the rooftop incident? Right after she received the most important evidence of her life? This wasn't a coincidence. She locked her phone, shoved it into her pocket, and pushed the restroom door open with a fast, determined stride. Whatever was about to happen in that cafeteria, she knew one thing for sure. The truth had only just begun to surface, and the emergency assembly would be the first place where Ridgewood High started to crack open. The school board conference room felt too small for the number of people crammed inside. Parents lined the walls, whispering sharply. Teachers clustered near the back, exchanging uneasy glances. The air vibrated with tension, thick enough to taste. Zariah sat at the long table in the center, hands folded tightly in her lap, while Cole lounged opposite her in a sling he absolutely didn't need. Principal Brennan Hale stood at the front like a ringmaster who'd lost control of his circus. "Thank you all for assembling on such short notice," Hale announced. "We are here to address the violent altercation involving students Cole Harrington and Zariah Miles." A murmur rippled through the room. Zariah kept her spine straight, her breathing steady. Ghostframe's messages still replaying in her mind. "Cole didn't just bully you. He's hurt a lot of people." The thought made her pulse quicken, not with fear, but clarity. Cole leaned forward, eyes shining with false sincerity. "I'll start," he said dramatically, placing a hand over his chest as if delivering a eulogy. "I've been scared for my life since yesterday. Zariah threatened me more than once." Zariah's jaw clenched. Cole continued, voice trembling in all the right places. "She told me she would, kill me." He swallowed loudly. "I didn't want to say anything, but she said she'd ruin my life if I talked." A wave of gasps spread across the room. Ms. Rowan's brows furrowed, uncertainty flickering in her eyes, but she remained silent. A parent near the back spoke up. "Are you saying she verbally threatened you? Multiple times?" "Yes," Cole answered immediately. "Too quickly. She was out of control, violent, completely unprovoked." A teacher whispered to another. "But that doesn't match what I saw in the hallway. His behavior—" Principal Hale raised a hand. "Please, one at a time," another parent asked. "But why would she attack you without reason?" Cole opened his mouth again, but this time anger seeped through the cracks of his performance. "Because she's unstable," he snapped. "Look at her. She has anger issues. She snapped and twisted my arm. "I didn't do anything." His voice broke into a frustrated growl. And suddenly, people didn't look convinced anymore. Students who had been standing near the door exchanged uneasy glances. Teachers shifted. Even parents murmured among themselves, noticing the shift from victim to agitated aggressor in real time. Hale cleared his throat. "Let's allow Ms. Miles to speak." But the moment Zariah opened her mouth, Cole cut her off. "She's lying," he spat. "She's probably going to make up some story." "Cole," Hale snapped quietly, but Cole kept going. Zariah inhaled deeply and spoke anyway, her voice calm, steady, unwavering. "I didn't threaten you, and I didn't attack you." She looked around the room, meeting eye after eye. Cole sprayed me with a fire hose. Then he tried to hit me. Lies, Cole shouted. She's twisting everything. Mr. Harrington, a parent snapped. Let her finish, Zariah continued. If anyone doubts what happened, we can look at... But she didn't finish that sentence because suddenly the overhead speaker system crackled. Every head in the room turned upward, a distorted hum bled through the speakers. Then, click, and then the drone footage began to play. The screen at the front of the conference room, normally used for presentations, lit up without anyone touching the controls. The rooftop appeared in high definition. Cole with the hose, Zariah being blasted backward, the squad laughing, Cole's hand arcing toward her face, her flawless counter, gasps, shouts, hands flying to mouths, chaos ignited in seconds. "Who played that?" Hale barked, panic seizing his voice. "Is that real?" a teacher whispered. "Oh my God," a parent breathed. "He lied." Cole lurched to his feet, face draining of color. "Turn it off! Turn it off!" But the video kept rolling. Every second a punch to his carefully crafted lie. Every frame a nail in the coffin of his credibility. Zariah didn't move. She didn't need to. Truth, finally, was speaking for her. The room erupted into shouting, accusations, and frantic demands, but somewhere in the chaos, one question cut clearer than any other. Who the hell hacked the system to make the truth impossible to ignore? The IT office of Ridgewood High felt more like a bunker than a workspace. Low ceilings, buzzing servers stacked like metal monoliths, and a maze of cables that snaked across the floor. The blue-white glow from multiple monitors washed over Principal Hale's tense face as he paced, barking orders. "I want the source of that broadcast traced," Hale snapped. "Now! I don't care how. Get it done." Two members of the IT department, Mr. Lewis and Ms. Carter, worked furiously at their keyboards, lines of code streaming across the screens. Both looked pale, rattled. No one had ever hijacked the school's AV system before. It wasn't supposed to be possible. Zariah stood near the doorway with Ms. Rowan behind her, trying not to be noticed. She watched Hale's frustration grow with every unsuccessful search result. "We're scanning the internal network," Ms. Carter stammered, "but the signal didn't originate from any school device." "So it came from outside?" Rowan asked. Lewis shook his head. "Not exactly. The footage was uploaded through our servers, almost like someone tunneled in from behind our firewall." Zariah's pulse quickened. Ghost frame. She had known the moment the drone video played in the conference room. And she also knew one thing. If Hale found Ghost Frame, the mysterious ally wouldn't stay safe for long. Hale stabbed a finger toward the screens. "Find them. Whoever did this committed a federal offense. And they're trying to destroy one of our students." Zariah's laugh, quiet but sharp, cut him off. "Destroy? You mean expose?" Hale spun, eyes narrowing. "Ms. Miles, you are in no position to—" "I saw you," Zariah said evenly. "In the discipline room. You knew the camera was off before I even mentioned it." A flicker of panic crossed Hale's face before he regained composure. "That's enough. You may leave." But before Zariah could respond, Ms. Rowan touched her elbow gently, then pulled her aside to a far corner, out of the IT staff's earshot. Her voice dropped to a low whisper. "Zariah, stop arguing. You don't understand what you're stepping into." Zariah frowned. "What do you mean?" Rowan's eyes darted toward Hale as he continued berating the IT team. "You're not just dealing with Cole. You're dealing with people who have been covering for him for years." Zariah's breath caught. "You knew?" Rowan swallowed hard, guilt tightening her features. "Every teacher knows. We're not blind. But Cole's family isn't just wealthy. They're connected. His father sits on the school funding board. His uncle is a major donor. People who cross that family, teachers, students, disappear from the school quietly, transferred, fired, expelled." Zariah felt a chill crawl across her skin. "And now," Rowan said softly, "you've made him desperate. Desperate people do dangerous things." Before Zariah could respond, Rowan reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a small black USB drive. Unmarked, smooth, almost ominous, she held it out. "If you really want to expose them," Rowan whispered, "this is the key." Zariah stared. "What's on it?" Rowan pressed it into her palm with a trembling hand. 2 years of complaints filed against Cole. Reports of harassment, physical assaults, teacher statements, witness accounts. Her voice dropped even lower. "All buried by the administration." Zariah froze. Her fingers curled around the USB as if it might burn her. Ms. Rowan pulled away quickly, as if afraid of being caught handing it over. Her final whisper trembled. "Be careful. The truth comes with a cost." Across the room, Hale slammed his palm on a desk, making everyone jump. "I want that hacker found by the end of the day." All eyes turned back to the frantic scene. No one noticed Zariah slip the USB into her pocket. No one noticed her inhale slowly, resolve forming like steel. Later, when she plugged the drive into her laptop, she would see the first file open. A police report naming Cole in a violent incident the school erased from the record. The final bell rang through Ridgewood High, and the building erupted into its usual noise. Slamming lockers, bursts of laughter, sneaker squeaks on polished floors. But when Zariah stepped into the main atrium, something felt different, quieter, tighter, like the whole school was holding its breath. A few students huddled around the big digital announcement board in the center of the hall. The screen flickered, glitched, then went black. A second later, white text appeared. "Ghost frame. Live cash. 02. Playing now." A murmur rippled instantly across the crowd. Students dropped their backpacks. Teachers froze in place. Even Cole, swaggering near the stairs with Mason and Tyler, paused mid-step. The screen lit up. It wasn't the rooftop. It was a compilation, clip after clip, victim after victim. Cole shoving a freshman into a locker until he cried. Cole ripping a notebook out of a girl's hands and throwing it into a puddle. Cole grabbing a kid by the backpack and slamming him against the vending machine. Cole pushing someone down the stairs, caught in perfect high definition. Gasps, swears. A girl covered her mouth, tears forming. A boy whispered, "That was me. My mom complained, and nothing happened." Another video popped up. Cole laughing as he snapped someone's glasses in half. Another, Cole pouring milk over a kid's head while Ridge Squad cheered. Another, Cole cornering a student in the bathroom and threatening him with a fist to the jaw. Teachers looked horrified. Parents picking up their kids from after-school programs stopped dead in the hallways. Phones came out, recording everything. Cole's face drained of all color. "That's edited," he screamed, voice cracking. "Fake, all fake." But no one believed that. Not anymore. A boy with braces stepped forward. Someone Zariah had never seen talk above a whisper. "That one," he said, pointing at the screen, "was real. I told the office." "They said there wasn't evidence," a girl next to him added, voice trembling with fury. "I reported Cole last semester. Mr. Hale told me to focus on my own behavior." A dozen students stepped forward. Then 2 dozen. Then more. Accusations burst from every direction. "You messed up my wrist last year. You stole my backpack. You broke my phone. You shoved my sister into the bleachers. You told everyone I was lying. Everyone believed you." The hall became a roar. Cole's breath turned ragged. His composure, his shield shattered. Rage warped his face. "Shut up," he roared. He grabbed a table from the study area and hurled it, metal legs screeching across the floor. A chair followed. Papers flew. A teacher tried to intervene, but Cole shoved her aside, eyes wild. Principal Hale pushed through the crowd, shouting, "Cole, stop this immediately! Everyone calm down!" "Shut up!" Cole screamed at him too. "You said you'd protect me. You said this would never get out." The crowd gasped. Hale turned chalk white. Zariah stepped forward, her voice rising above the chaos with a clarity that sliced through the noise. Cole only has power when all of you stay silent. The entire atrium fell still. Every eye turned to her. Every breath waited. Cole's face twisted, his panic turning into something feral. He looked around, at the students, the teachers, the videos looping behind him. Every one of them was a witness, so he did the only thing he had left. He ran, bolting toward the west staircase, shoving past the crowd, taking the steps two at a time. Zariah didn't hesitate. Her shoes hit the floor hard as she sprinted after him, her braid whipping behind her like a battle flag. Cole fled to the rooftop, the place where it all started, and Zariah followed, knowing the next confrontation would finally decide everything. The rooftop door slammed open so violently it rattled on its hinges. Cole burst through it first, stumbling into the blinding afternoon light. His breath came in frantic gasps, sweat streaking his face. He spun around just in time to see Zariah step onto the roof, the door closing behind her with a heavy thud. The same rooftop where it all started, where he'd humiliated her, where he thought she'd break. Now he was the one cornered. The wind whipped across the concrete, carrying the tension like a live wire between them. Cole backed toward the railing, hands trembling, eyes darting as though searching for an escape he already knew didn't exist. "Stop following me," he yelled, voice cracking. Just stop." Zariah didn't advance. She simply stood there, calm but fierce, breathing steady, the fire inside her held with perfect discipline. "What do you want, Cole?" she asked quietly. "What do I want?" he spat, wiping sweat from his lip. "I want you gone. I want you out of this school. You walk around like nothing scares you, like you're better. And everyone just let you." His voice trembled more with every word. "You don't know what it's like," he continued, "to have people expect everything from you, to have to win, to pretend you're the strongest, every single day." Zariah didn't blink. "None of that excuses what you did." Cole's eyes flashed with something raw, fear, anger, desperation twisted into one. "You don't get it," he roared. "If people saw me lose, if they saw me weak, my dad, my uncle, everyone, they'd tear me apart. You showing up, you ruined everything." He took 2 steps forward, fists clenched, tears spilling down his face. "You weren't supposed to fight back," he choked. "You were supposed to be scared." Zariah held his gaze, voice firm but steady. "Being scared isn't the same as being powerless." Cole's face hardened. Something snapped. "Shut up," he hissed. Then louder, "Shut up!" He lunged. It wasn't a wild flail of a bully anymore. This time he aimed straight for her center, hands outstretched, trying to shove her backward toward the railing. For a split second, Zariah saw his intent, and her body reacted before her mind could. Her heels spun, a tight pivot. Her hips turned, her legs swept in a clean, controlled arc, a textbook roundhouse. Her kick connected with Cole's ribs. The impact sent him sprawling sideways, legs sliding out from under him. He crashed onto the concrete with a sharp grunt, pain ripping through his chest. He rolled onto his back, clutching his side, tears streaming freely now. I didn't want to be the weak one," he sobbed. "I didn't want people to think I'm nothing." Zariah stepped closer, not to tower over him, but to look him directly in the eyes. "You became weak the moment you needed to hurt others to feel strong." Cole buried his face in his hands, shoulders shaking. Then the rooftop door opened again. Hard footsteps, heavy belts, radios clicking. 2 uniformed officers emerged, followed by Principal Hale, looking pale and shaken. "Cole Harrington," one officer called out. "Stay where you are." Cole froze, and Zariah exhaled, her fight finally over. With police on the rooftop, the truth was no longer a secret, and Ridgewood High was about to face the consequences it had avoided for far too long. The sky above Ridgewood High darkened as if the world itself sensed something was about to fall. Clouds slid over the sun, casting the rooftop in a muted gray. Zariah stood still, her chest rising and falling, adrenaline fading into a quiet, anchored strength. Cole remained on the ground, one hand pressed to his ribs, breath hiccuping in uneven bursts. The rooftop door burst open again. Two police officers stepped through, stern-faced, uniforms crisp. Behind them came Principal Hale, pale and jittery, with Ms. Rowan and several students gathering at the doorway, curiosity and fear blending on their faces. Cole jolted upright, pointing at Zariah with a shaking hand. "Arrest her!" he shouted, voice shrill. "She attacked me. She tried to kill me. You saw. She kicked me. One officer held up a hand. "Both of you stay exactly where you are." Cole blinked, confused. "What? No, you don't understand." "We do," the officer interrupted. His gaze hardened. "We've seen the video." Zariah felt her breath catch, not because she was afraid, but because, for the first time since this nightmare began, she realized someone with power finally saw the truth. Cole's face drained of color. What video?" he stammered. "Someone edited something, right? That's—" The second officer pulled a tablet from his belt, tapping the screen. "There weren't just one or two recordings, Cole Harrington," he said calmly. "There were 7. Cole's mouth fell open. The officer continued, voice carrying across the silent roof. 7 separate videos were sent to our station in the last 30 minutes. Different students, different angles, different timestamps. Whispers rippled through the small crowd of students in the doorway. Zariah closed her eyes for a moment, relief washing over her like a warm tide. It wasn't just Ghost Frame. It wasn't just the drone. The students, kids who had been silent, afraid, ignored, had stepped forward. Cole's empire didn't just crack, it imploded. The first officer nodded toward the school below. "The moment your behavior went public, students started emailing us. Some of the videos go back months." Cole shook his head violently. No, that's not possible. They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't." His voice broke. Then, in a moment that seemed to freeze the entire rooftop, he blurted out, "Hale, the principal. He said the camera would be off." The words tumbled out before he could stop them, raw panic spilling into the open. Every person on the rooftop went silent. Principal Hale stiffened, shock flickering across his face, before he forced a calm expression. "Cole, I don't know what you're insinuating," but the officer turned to him slowly, eyes narrowing. "Principal Hale," he said, "we need to have a conversation." Cole's chest heaved. Zariah stared. Ms. Rowan closed her eyes as if bracing for impact. Hale opened his mouth. Whether to deny, defend, or flee, no one knew. But the officer lifted a hand again. "In my experience," he said quietly, "kids don't take risks unless the adults around them fail first." Hale swallowed. Hard. No one moved. Even the wind seemed to pause. As the officers led Cole away, they turned back to Hale, and for the first time, the man who controlled Ridgewood High had absolutely nowhere left to hide. The makeshift investigation room inside the library buzzed with a tense, electric energy. Shelves of books towered around the crowd, but no one was reading. Every eye was locked on the front, where a projector screen glowed like a spotlight of truth. Students packed the aisles. Parents whispered sharply. Teachers stood rigid, arms crossed. Ridge Squad huddled together, pale and silent. Zariah sat in the center row, hands clasped tightly in her lap. She could feel dozens of stares, some apologetic, some stunned, some finally awakened. 2 officers stepped forward. "Thank you for gathering," one said. "We will begin reviewing the submitted evidence." The lights dimmed, and the first video appeared, the drone footage. Cole gripping the hose, the water slamming into Zariah, the circle of bullies blocking her escape. Cole's hand rising to strike. Zariah's flawless counter. A few parents gasped. A teacher covered her mouth. Someone whispered, "My God." Then the next video played. Hallway footage from 2 months ago. Cole pinning a student against lockers. Then another. A shaky cell phone recording of Cole shoving a kid into a corner during lunch. Then another. Cole screaming at a freshman who was too scared to speak. Finally, a recording from a hallway camera, still grainy but unmistakable. Cole leading Zariah toward the rooftop, arm clamped tightly on her shoulder. Every angle told the same story. Cole wasn't a victim. He was a repeat predator. A woman in the front row jumped up. Cole's mother. "This is biased," she snapped. "You're only showing her side. She provoked him. That girl—" A police officer cut her off. Voice steady. "Ma'am, the videos are time-stamped, cross-verified, and corroborated by multiple witnesses," she sputtered. But she attacked him." The officer pointed to the rooftop footage. "Cole attempted to assault her first. She exercised her right to self-defense. And according to the videos, Cole also tried to push her off the rooftop ledge." The room erupted with shocked murmurs. A student yelled, "See, we weren't lying." Another added, "Cole's been doing this for years. He threatened everyone." Voices rose from every corner. "He slammed me into a desk last year. He stole my things and said he'd ruin me if I told. He shoved me into the bathroom stall. I cried all day." One by one, students who had been silent for months, some for years, stood up and finally spoke. Zariah felt her throat tighten. She wasn't just fighting for herself. She had cracked open a sealed vault of buried truth. At the front of the room, Principal Hale raised both hands, sweat beading on his forehead. "Everyone, please, let's stay rational. There may be misunderstandings in the footage." But one of the officers stepped forward sharply. "Mr. Hale, we recovered your access logs." He held up a printed sheet. "You manually disabled the rooftop camera at 12:39 p.m., exactly 6 minutes before Cole led Zariah up the stairs." A hush fell. Even the air seemed to freeze. Hale's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The crowd watched him as if seeing him for the first time. Zariah rose slowly from her chair. She didn't shout. She didn't tremble. Her voice carried with a clarity that sliced through the room like clean steel. "I don't want anyone to ever fear someone like Cole again." She turned toward Hale. "And I don't want anyone to fear the adults who were supposed to protect us." Silence. Then applause broke out, scattered at first, then swelling into a roar. Hale stepped backward, stunned, shaken. One officer approached him. "Principal Hale, we need you to come with us. You will be questioned separately." As Hale was escorted out of the room, every student watched, realizing the system that protected Cole was finally cracking apart. The library emptied slowly after the investigation meeting, students drifting out in stunned clusters, parents murmuring in disbelief, teachers exchanging shaken glances. When the last group disappeared around the corner, silence settled like dust. Zariah lingered by the tall windows, the late afternoon light slanting across the hallway in thin golden lines. Her pulse was still steady from speaking in front of the entire school, but her mind churned. Her phone buzzed softly. "Ghost Frame, it's time you knew who I am." Zariah's stomach tightened. She typed back, "Where are you?" But before the message could send, she heard footsteps. Slow ones. She turned. A boy stood at the far end of the hallway, skinny, hoodie zipped halfway up, glasses slipping down his nose, a laptop tucked under his arm like it was part of him. He hesitated, took a breath, then walked toward her. Elias Ward, the kid who always sat in the back corner of class, the kid no one spoke to, the kid everyone forgot was there. But his eyes, soft, observant, quietly burning, held a truth that made Zariah's heart pound harder. He stopped a few feet away. "Elias?" Zariah whispered. He nodded once. "Yeah." Then he swallowed, voice barely above a murmur. "I'm Ghost Frame." The hallway seemed to shift around them, air thickening, reality sharpening. Zariah blinked. You filmed everything? You hacked the system?" He let out a shaky, humorless laugh. "Not exactly something I can put on my college applications, but yeah, that was me." Zariah stepped closer. "Why?" Elias looked down at his hands, gripping the laptop until his knuckles whitened. "Because someone had to," he said quietly. Because no one stopped him. Because everyone was too scared. He raised his eyes to meet hers, and what she saw there wasn't pride. It was pain. Cole didn't just hurt random kids, Elias said. He hurt my sister. Zariah's breath caught. I didn't know you had a sister. You wouldn't, Elias said softly. She left Ridgewood last year. She couldn't handle the bullying anymore. Cole harassed her nonstop, made rumors about her, pushed her around, told people she was crazy. His voice cracked. She stopped eating, stopped talking. One day she just didn't get out of bed. Zariah felt her chest tighten with anger and heartbreak. I tried reporting it, Elias continued, but Hale buried everything. Told my parents it was teenage drama. No one listened, he exhaled shakily, pushing his glasses back up. So I decided I'd gather proof. For 6 months I recorded everything Cole did. I mapped out his patterns. I hacked the old security feeds. I learned how to fly the drone. His voice steadied. But I didn't have enough until I saw him drag you up those stairs. Zariah swallowed hard. So when you sent me that first video, I knew you'd fight back, Elias said. You weren't scared. You were angry. And you were right. For a long moment, they stood in silence. Not awkward, just heavy, meaningful. Then Elias extended a USB drive. Black, unmarked, identical to the one Ms. Rowan had given her. This is the last file, he said. The one Hale hoped no one would ever see. Zariah took it, the weight of it settling into her palm like a final piece of the puzzle. Hale's black file? She asked. Elias nodded. Every cover-up, every buried complaint, every time he protected Cole at someone else's expense. Zariah stared at the USB, feeling a new fire rise in her chest. Not just justice, but purpose. Elias gave a small, almost shy smile. You didn't just stand up for yourself, he said quietly. You stood up for everyone he ever hurt. Her breath hitched. And with the black file in her hand, Zariah knew she was about to bring down the person who built the entire system that allowed Cole to rule unchecked. Principal Hale's office looked different at 6 in the evening. The sun had dipped behind the buildings, leaving only a single desk lamp flickering weakly, its light trembling like a guilty heartbeat. Shadows stretched across the floor, dark and warped, swallowing the corners of the room. It felt less like an office and more like the last room before judgment. Zariah stepped inside with Elias close behind her. The 2 officers stood at the doorway, their presence heavy and silent. Hale sat behind her mahogany desk, hands folded so tightly her knuckles had turned white. Her eyes darted between Zariah and the USB drive she held. So, Hale said, clearing her throat, you've brought files, not just files, Zariah replied. Her voice didn't waver. Evidence. Elias connected his laptop to the office monitor. With a few clicks, the black screen lit up with folder names. Cold, clinical, unmistakable. Funds, chairman. Transfer, Cole, Harrington, case suppressed teacher. Transfer, justifications, complaints. Redirected camera override. Hale's breath hitched. The first file opened. Financial records, 3 years' worth, detailing deposits from the Harrington family into a school development account. But the money never went to upgrades. It went directly into Hale's discretionary budget. The second file showed buried complaints. Students reporting violence, teachers reporting intimidation, parents begging for intervention, all marked resolved, no action. The third file cut the deepest, Hale ordering teacher transfers to remove anyone who tried to hold Cole accountable. Elias clicked into the final file, camera logs, including timestamps, including manual overrides, including the one from just hours earlier, camera off, 12:39 p.m. Admin access, Hale. Be the silence sharpened. One officer stepped forward. Mrs. Hale, for years you knowingly suppressed evidence of harassment and assault, protected a repeat offender, and tampered with surveillance during an active incident. Hale rose suddenly from her chair. I did what I had to, she snapped. Her voice cracked under its own weight. I had to protect the school's reputation. Donations keep our doors open. If the Harringtons pulled out, Ridgewood would collapse. Zariah stared at her, steady, unflinching. A school that doesn't protect its students, she said quietly, isn't worth protecting. Hale's face twisted, grief colliding with anger. You don't understand what it takes to run a school? No, Zariah cut in. You don't understand what it means to be a student here. The words hit harder than any punch. The officers stepped forward. Principal Brennan Hale, one said, you are hereby suspended from duty pending criminal investigation. You will accompany us for further questioning. Hale stumbled backward, her mouth opening but no sound escaping. Her legs buckled as the officers gently but firmly guided her away from the desk. All authority she wielded, gone. All the power she hoarded, gone. All the lies she buried, uncovered. She passed Zariah in the doorway. For a moment she paused. Her voice dropped to a whisper, trembling with something between warning and regret. You have no idea what you've awakened, child. Then she was led down the hall, fading into the dimness. Zariah stood in the empty office, light flickering, the files still glowing on the screen, feeling the weight of victory and the shadow of whatever Hale's words meant. Tomorrow, Ridgewood High would honor Zariah, but the truth she uncovered was far from finished shaping the school's future. The rooftop looked nothing like the battleground it had been. The concrete was clean. The broken chair and hose were gone. The sun spilled warm gold across the space, softening every hard edge, transforming it into something new. Students gathered in a wide circle, filling the rooftop with quiet anticipation. There was no fear, no cruelty, only respect, something Ridgewood High had never shown here before. Zariah stepped through the rooftop door, and the crowd parted like she was walking into a brand-new world. Elias walked beside her, clutching his laptop to his chest with an unusually relaxed smile. Ms. Rowan stood near the front, hands clasped, pride softening her normally stern expression. A small podium had been set up, not grand, not formal, but meaningful. A banner behind it fluttered in the breeze. Courage, honor, courage to change. When Zariah approached, an assistant principal cleared his throat, voice echoing across the rooftop. Today, he said, we acknowledge a student whose bravery did more than stop a bully. It shattered a system that failed to protect its own. Zariah Miles, this school is safer because of you. A ripple of applause swept through the crowd, warm and genuine, a far cry from the cruel laughter she had once heard here. Zariah accepted the small metal badge, simple, silver, engraved with the words, Courage, Honor, but the weight of it felt heavier than steel. It wasn't just an award, it was the truth finally being recognized. She stepped forward, slowly, deliberately, returning to the exact spot where Cole had stood with the fire hose, where the cold blast had slammed into her ribs, where she had felt humiliation burn across her skin like acid. But today, there was no water, no fear, no Cole, only sunlight and the sound of students who now knew her strength. Zariah lifted her chin, shoulders straight, posture tall. She smiled, not a triumphant smirk, but something powerful, steady, unbreakable. Elias stepped beside her, his voice soft enough only she could hear. You didn't just fight back, he said. You changed this whole school. Zariah exhaled slowly, letting the breeze brush against her face. Maybe now, she murmured. No one else will have to go through what we did. The rooftop fell quiet as she walked to the railing. She placed her palm against the cool metal, staring down at the courtyard below. Students scattered across the sunlight, laughing, walking, living freely. Her reflection shimmered faintly in the railing's surface. A girl who arrived as a target, who became a fighter, who now stood as a guide. The rooftop hadn't changed her. She had changed the rooftop. She whispered, barely audible, Same place, same girl, two different futures. Then louder, her voice carrying in the wind. And the truth, when finally seen, Always wins, the students erupted in applause, the sound soaring into the open sky. But not everyone clapped. Near the far corner of the rooftop stood a lone figure, a student she didn't recognize, hood up, hands in pockets. Watching her with an expression that wasn't admiration, it was fear or warning, their gaze locked with hers for a heartbeat. Then the figure turned and disappeared through the stairwell door. Zariah's smile faded just slightly. A new secret was already forming in the shadows of Ridgewood High, and Zariah knew the fight for truth was far from over, and that's how a rooftop meant for humiliation became the very place she stood her tallest. Zariah didn't just defend herself. She exposed a system built to protect the wrong people and turned every hidden truth into a spotlight no one could look away from. Her strength wasn't just in her kicks. It was in her refusal to stay silent. Now I want to hear from you. Which moment shocked you the most in this story? If you felt even a spark of courage from Zariah's fight, hit like, share this video, and subscribe, because the next story is even wilder, and trust me, the truth only gets louder from here.